Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Apple Podcasts. You get more information and listen to previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the nation. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Diane Saccone, a healthy, a healthy aging specialist. And welcome aboard, Diane. Thanks for joining me. And you can wave, by the way, I should mention, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. So give them a big wave. There you go. Okay. Diane Saccone has spent the majority of her career in the field of clinical laboratory medicine. She changed her path after moving to Asheville with her husband in 2005. She built a yoga community, servicing the community through teaching therapeutic yoga at several farms throughout Madison and Buncombe counties, while co-founding the therapeutic yoga teacher training program at Asheville Yoga Center. She also developed the active older adult program at the YMCA of Western North Carolina, where she served as the Director of Healthy Aging Initiative. During that time, Diane traveled throughout the country presenting lectures on aging with an emphasis on falls prevention. She's passionate about helping seniors live a healthy and vibrant life. And great objective. And so glad you're with us because it's something I guess I'm interested in, even though I don't have to worry for another 10 years, right? Or let me ask you this in all seriousness. How does one um, qualify to needing to learning about healthy aging? Is there a certain age that hits in?
The moment you come out of your mother's womb, um,
Right. Okay.
since we were conceived. And with respect to falls, falls are something to think about if you're an adult 45 years or older living with a chronic disease, or we say a comorbidity such as diabetes or anything that increases falls risk in every adult over the age of 60. And the what is urgent about this is that falls are the number one cause of accidental death worldwide in adults over 60.
Well, let
When you
me ask you, in
yeah,
terms of falls and getting interested in it, as a child, you grew up where?
grew up in the Northern Virginia area,
Okay, when you're growing up in Northern Virginia area, did you always know you wanted to be a healthy aging specialist?
never. You go to school, you come home, your parents kick you out and tell you to come in when you're hungry or it's dark. And in the summertime, they just kicked you out in June. You came back in September. So that's what we did. We ran around, we played, and we were kids.
And you probably, when you're running around and played, you probably fell a couple of times, but
One or two,
but
maybe.
you could deal with it then. So what got you into healthy aging?
It really wasn't that I got into healthy aging. I was at the Y teaching yoga, and I think I was the low hanging fruit since I was one of the youngest, or one of the older staff members there. And there was this new grant for healthy aging, and I became the director of these initiatives. And really, we made the job up along the way. And um, to be honest, my dad taught me, he gave me my PhD in healthy aging as he was living with vascular dementia. And so when we take a look at 1 in 9 older adults living with dementia in Western North Carolina, that's huge. And so falls prevention and everything that had to do with aging well became very, very important to me and still is.
And it's you mention it, but that's I guess my interest. I guess it's a lot of people's interests. Not so much how old we're going to live, but more importantly, I guess the real key is what you said. It's like health. I want to live healthy. And I guess that's an objective that a lot of people have, but they don't always follow through on it. And so let me ask you, in terms of as folks get older, um, what can we do to become healthier?
You touched on a really important point. It's not about how long we live. My mother-in-law, we're leaving in 2 months to go see her and celebrate her 106th birthday.
Wow.
Ever is she aging well? So how do we age well versus how long do we age is a whole different thing. And really, honestly, it's through health, prevention, fitness, and social interaction. social isolation is a very big thing as we age. Loss of a spouse, or living in a house and not getting out that much, and your world becomes smaller and smaller. Lack of physical exercise, lack of nutrition. Just because we retire or we get older does not give us a pass not to eat dark leafy vegetables. The bitter, the better. Calcium rich foods. Exercising a minimum of 115 minutes a week. And that doesn't mean just taking your dog out. That also means lifting weights for 3 to 4 times a week. So and also too, prevention in the form of seeing your primary care physician, getting your eyes checked. And so that is how we age well and laughing with life.
Well, I imagine another thing that you've done with some of the work you've done is through the Y, for example, and other places you've taught at. I guess that's important too, that you maintain also these social interactions with other people as opposed to just doing it all yourself.
Oh, absolutely. When we first started this healthy aging initiative, I started doing healthy aging field trips. And so I was trained to drive the little Y activity bus. And so this is great. And we did this tubing trip down in Saluda. And so everybody's so polite and everybody's so quiet on the bus going down. And then after the tubing trip is over, everybody's exchanging emails and taking pictures of each other. And we're pulling into the Royal Y, and one of my bosses is walking by, is like, everybody jump out of the windows and say hello. And they're all screaming and yelling, hey Todd, how are you? So it's that piece, and then seeing these friendships emerge. And this is what we see at Asheville Community Yoga with the continually increasing classes due to the demand of our senior yoga classes, chair yoga classes, and the volunteerism too, for again, that social interaction piece that makes people feel valued.
Well, and talk a little bit then about Asheville Community Yoga or other places as well. You mentioned the senior programs. Is there an age number or limit that kicks in or it starts, or when does that become? When do you become a senior and appropriate for this kind of discussion?
Another great question, because we don't like labels. And one of the last things I was going to do before I left the wire, right when COVID hit, we were just about to launch this thing called Age Strong. And it took 8 different words that society depicts as an older adult: senile, grumpy, frumpy.
I qualify, yeah.
Yeah, all these. And so we were going to reverse that. And these are isms. And so at Asheville Community Yoga, we offer classes, yes, with labels, I think more to make people feel more welcome and open. So if you have somebody who's on a walker, or, has suffered a fall and they're on a cane, they're going to say, well, I can't do yoga. Yoga is for flexible people. Yoga is not an exercise. It's a way of being. It's a way of life. And so we offer these classes with different modalities to let anybody feel comfortable.
Well, that's like, it reminds me that I'm not a real big yoga guy. My wife is, but the one yoga thing I got into and I was actually trained in it was laughter yoga.
Yes,
Are you familiar with laughter
very
yoga?
familiar with it.
Okay, but that's my kind of yoga. But again, the point being that there's no age limit for it. So what you said was kind of interesting, and cue me in on that. So to take a course at the Y or take a course anywhere in yoga, there's no upper or lower age limit on that.
Never. We offer children's yoga from age 4 and up. So you have a child that's 4 years old. We have age 4 to 11 for our children's yoga classes that we will pair on Saturday mornings. So mom and dad can go take an hour break while Josie does an incredible job with the children. And we also now are offering a summer camp, which involves yoga and the 8 limbs of yoga. And we make a fairy village, and we have the kids just be kids. So that was so popular last year. We going from 3 weeks to 6 weeks this summer, and registration is now open on our website.
And what's so cool about it is, as you mentioned, I never thought of yoga as for children. I think about yoga, and it's true, I guess, with a lot of women, guys as well. They don't get into yoga, unfortunately, I guess, until their 30s, 40s, 50s, but I didn't realize that as a young kid, kids are getting into yoga.
Very much so. When our family came for a family reunion, our 4-year-old and 7-year-old, what they wanted to do was go to a yoga class.
Oh, really?
I took them to yoga. They were there the entire hour. Well, mom and dad got to do whatever they want to do, and they came out wanting to know and go to the next class. And the teachers have this love for children, and they're trained specifically in children's yoga, so they know what to do. And a lot of our poses are named after animals. So cobra pose are going to be a snake. You're going to wiggle around, or they're or go, into a different pose, like up dog, down dog, and they'll make doggy sounds, and it's just really sweet.
Talk about the other extreme though. So this is, I never realized yoga for 4-year-olds,
Mhm.
but what's the oldest in terms of on the other extreme that people do yoga?
Anybody that can, that has the interest in practicing the physical form, the meditation aspect of it, um, to learn how to use the breath, prana, as our life force, to calm the mind, to calm the senses. And so my mother-in-law, who's going to be 106, we talk about that. And we talk about breathing. And as we age, it's important that we look at, we know that there's less time in front of us and more time behind us. And there's a book, actually, I just happen to have it here. He's a New York Times author. His name is John Leland. And he wrote this great book called Happiness is a Choice You Make. And he was assigned by the New York Times to follow 6 of what we call the oldest old, 85 and above, for a year. And it changes the entire perspective on what aging is. And most of the people that he spoke to, not just these 6, but others, as we age, we tend not to sweat the big stuff anymore. It's why not just be in this moment? And that's really what yoga teaches us to do. That we know we're going to die, but we might as well have a good time before we get there. We might as well enjoy each other.
It's funny because as you mentioned that, I recall discussions I have with my wife on that point, and I try to tell her to not think of herself as old, or just, uh, it's just a number. So just do it without, I'm getting older, I can't do this, or putting limits on yourself. Just do it, I guess, is the key. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done. So I love it. And I know that the book, he wrote a series of articles that was in the New York Times over a period of time, right? He was tracing these people. They were fantastic. It was a great series. So thank you for mentioning the book. Just hold it up again in case anybody wants to dig it up. Great title, isn't it? Happiness is a choice you make, whatever your age is. Talk a little bit then about how, so you had this yoga background for a long period of time. How do you get into all of a sudden working with, and I love the concept, working with balance and people falling. How did that come about?
So this grant came through at the Y, and I was part of the group of primary faculty that got trained through this grant. And I don't have the exact numbers, but it was several hundred people went through the program in 3 years. And at that time, it's X amount of weeks long for so many days a week, or you can just do it one day a week for X amount of weeks. And we follow 8 forms of Tai Chi that have been adapted to reduce falls risk. We do a pre-program assessment, and to take a little idea of where you are in falls risk. And then we do a post assessment. And I just got finished with our last class, and we had 9 out of the 10 folks that went from below average risk to average, or what we say AA is above average, or improved balance. They've improved their balance tremendously.
And what makes somebody at risk?
If you're automatically at risk if you're 45 years old and older, living with obesity, diabetes, or other chronic conditions, and or over 60 years of age, whether you're a man or a woman. If you've fallen in the last 6 months, that increases your risk even more. And as we age, we develop a condition called sarcopenia. And that is the right around 35, 40 years old, which a lot of people don't realize it's that much. You start to lose your bone mass. We become sedentary. We sit in a chair, we sit in the car, and we're not doing as much. And now we have in yoga this new technical term called tech head, or the 42-pound head, where we're constantly leaning over, which affects our posture and balance, which is something else. And osteoporosis too. 1 in 3 women live with osteoporosis over the age of 60, 1 in 5 men. And by the time a man reaches 70, you're right in line with the women. So these balance programs, these fall prevention programs help improve your balance, and they help you learn how to stop yourself if you're entering into a fall. So we teach specific ways to prevent a fall. They also get homework. So it's 6 weeks long, once a week. The class is an hour and a half long. After the class, they receive their homework from me on the computer, and there's different articles to read and different exercises they are to do.
How about a related problem that I've even kind of noticed in my own life is that I don't fall often, but just in general, I don't get up as easily as I used to. I noticed, I think I was telling you off the air, I work with a trainer and I'm on a mat sometimes. And it used to be very easy for me to get up, but it's not quite as easy as it used to be. Is that part of the process?
Yes, because we're losing our core strength and we don't think about our core strength. So I tease my students and I tell them at the end of 6 weeks they're going to have core, thunder thighs and great core mass so they can wear their Speedos and bikinis and 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 that's the other thing too. We have share time, and so the first class I don't do it, but the second class we reintroduce our names and why we're here, and they start sharing their stories. And we have people that are three-peating the class now because they found it's not about memorizing a Tai Chi movement. It's learning that if you're going forward with your foot or sideways, you always go heel toe. So many people will go to the side and their toe hits first, but the law of physics takes you forward. So we want to stop that inertia with the heel toe. We also practice something called sit to stand, to your point of not being
Right.
able to get up. And so I ask everybody to stand up, and everybody every time will put their hands on the chair, their hands on you're smiling, yep, guilty, or put your hands on your legs to get up. No core involvement. And so teaching people how to come up out of a chair and sit back down again is what we do. Tapping of the toes, the front of your shin bone. Your shin bone has a muscle called tibialis anterior. That muscle is responsible for lifting up your toes, up and down. And so, I'm sure when you're in your pink bunny slippers in the morning getting your coffee, you're shuffling across the floor and you trip into a rug and then you can fall. And that's how my mom died. So she was living with melanoma, stage 4. She was given a 20% chance of survival back in the day. And just a quick side story, she worked for ABC News, and her friend Ted Koppel, who you might know, I'm sorry, wrong person. Sorry, Ted, if you're watching this, I apologize.
Okay.
Another newscaster, which I will leave unnamed, also developed melanoma. And because my mom was of a certain age and he was 1 year younger, he got into an NIH study and he's still alive. And my mother died 6 months later. But she fell on a rug carrying soup, to the table because her toe hit first and it set off her balance.
Yep.
So many people will say to you, well, I was clumsy, I fell. But if you tend to fall wrong, there's only so many times you can hit the ground without something breaking. And in osteoporosis prevention, which I get on my soapbox about, the cure, according to medical science as it is today, is to take a pill or take an injection every day or once a year
Right.
for the rest of your life. There are options to that. There are MRIs now that are being tested with the FDA to look at your greater trochanter and look at the strength of the bone. So weight-bearing exercise helps to strengthen the bone in fall prevention programs so that if you fall, you will not fracture a bone. And that's why I'm passionate about this.
And I'm so grateful you are because as you're speaking, I'm thinking to myself, that we learn lots of things in life, especially when we went to school, we learn lots of stuff. We learn stuff even as adults, but not too many people concentrate on the subject of the balance or even falling. I don't recall it ever being a discussion until actually having this. I've been doing this show a lot of years in a lot of different formats. And I thank you because you're the first person I've ever discussed this with, balance and falling. This is not something we ordinarily give a lot of thought to, you
No,
know.
until
Um,
you fall.
yeah.
And your
Well,
doctor says go to yoga, and then you say, well, what do you mean? And then again, this fear, danger, danger, Mr. Robinson comes in because you don't know if you're thinking you're going to walk into a bunch of very skinny young people wearing little, tank tops, and that's not the case, especially where we are, because we're donation. We don't get paid as instructors. We have 76 instructors. So it's all donation based, and we're our 15th year. And everybody that comes in says, wow, this is really great. It's the most amazing thing.
and so the name of the course, it's when you taught, what's the name of the course?
We call it 6 weeks, 6 week balance program because I'm not allowed to use the other name. But it's a 6 week falls prevention course. So it's a balanced program for falls prevention. And then I'm also offering the day before a 1 day workshop, Yoga for Osteoporosis. And it's based upon Dr. Lauren Fishman and his NIH study that was a 10-year study that showed that specific yoga poses have been known to have the same benefit as bisphosphonates and other drugs. And so that one is this is the third time I've taught this program.
And so let me ask you then, who would you say would be the ideal candidate to take this course?
To take the falls prevention courses, anybody who is 45 or older, who is living with obesity, who has fallen, who has a cancer. If you were a cancer patient and you're in remission, or you're currently living with a diagnosis of cancer at any stage, very important. People with neuropathy, very important program. And everybody over the age of 60.
Okay, because you're getting me thinking, that something I hadn't even put on my radar screen, but it should be, because, and I guess people tell you this, I've had one or two falls, and not major and, not overly concerning, but I guess it should tip something off in my mind that maybe it's time for, a couple of years over 60, but maybe it's time for me to think about such a course,
I think we're mortal until we're immortal until all of a sudden we have a situation where we become very, very mortal. And
and
we
you,
want that to happen. We want you to get in so that you can use these tools instinctively so you don't fall. And if you do fall, your lower body and upper body and core strength is strong enough for you to either prevent a fall or fall correctly.
and I was talking to you, I mentioned to you before, as part of this, do you also then tell people how to get up?
Yeah.
Okay, because it reminds me, years ago, I took my daughter for a skiing lesson, and I didn't like it because that's the first thing they teach you, how to get up, after you fall.
Yeah.
And I said, and they kept knocking you down. I said, this wasn't for me. The course is offered where and how often, and how do people find out about it?
The course is offered at Asheville Community Yoga. It is on Brookdale Drive in Woodfin.
Okay.
If you go to ashevillecommunityyoga.org, it will and you'll go on to the main website, you'll see events, and you click on that and you'll see all the workshops, and this fall prevention workshop will be there, and you just click on it to register online. Simple as that.
And you
It,
offer it, how many times do you offer it?
it is offered. It's 6 weeks each time, and so you enroll into the 6 week program, and we increase the different movements or the different forms each time. So we focus on one, and then we go to the next, then we go to the next. You'll learn 8 forms, and then you'll end up with an ebook by the end of the 6 weeks. So if you A lot of people will they'll print off their homework and they bring in it with notes, and then they'll have this little folder. And the book's about 50 pages long by the time we're all said and done. And the course is $100, but we don't turn away anybody based on inability to pay. We do have financial assistance.
And you mentioned too, before the course, you're offering a 1 day session for,
I am yoga for osteoporosis, and that is for anybody. That's for everybody. Of course, I would love to see people come in that do not live with osteoporosis yet, as well as people who are living with osteopenia or osteoporosis. And there are 3 different modifications that we use depending upon where you sit on the osteoporosis scale. I'm going to be discussing nutrition. I'm going to be discussing exercise. We're going to be talking about the study. You'll learn how bones are born and how bones die and what the body naturally does and what the drugs will do. And you can see the difference. Basically, the drugs will turn off what your parasympathetic nervous system is meant to do. And then the drug takes over the purpose.
now you mentioned before, some folks, for example, are greater um, predisposition for a fall, and
Yeah.
especially you mentioned, for example, if they are overweight.
Yes.
Taking this course, or do you see sometimes, and I guess it's very exciting when you do, that people make a change as a result of taking the course? You know, they come in bad shape, and knowing they're in bad shape, do you sometimes see people make a change?
Oh my gosh, I see it all the time. I'll be walking around Beaver Lake with my husband, and I've had people go heel toe, heel toe, heel toe that have been in my program, or I'll see them in the Whole Foods, or I'll see them in yoga. And these are people that would never walk into a yoga studio. I just they're like allergic to yoga, and they just want to learn about this. And then they see, oh, wow, I can volunteer in the garden, or, oh, I can fold towels. Oh, we have a used clothing store. I can help at the used clothing store. It's called Zen and Now, best used clothing store on the planet.
I love it. How about people who have arthritis?
Yes,
Is that it? Like, I'll hear that from some people, they can't do this because they have a bad case of arthritis.
they can't do that because they're not moving. So if you don't move it, you're going to lose it. And so motion is lotion. Okay. And so let's say for the shoulder, a lot of people say, oh, I have frozen shoulder syndrome and I
Right.
can't get my arm up. I see a lot of this. It's the way that we're standing up. So we teach postural alignment. And then we talk about hyperextension. So many of us, if I can go like this, will hyperextend their arm out. Now the humerus bone is outside the shelf of the shoulder, let's say. And that hyperextension is taking the tendons and you're slowly sawing away the tendons and the ligaments over time. Not so good. So we talk about postural alignment, using our core muscles, where to place the shoulder in line with the body, how to rotate, and miraculously all these arms go straight up and you hear like, oh, that's how you do it. So
Well,
yes,
it's funny because I think I told you also that I work with a trainer. And yeah, I've noticed that my shoulders, especially, are not as strong as they used to be, or I'll feel, I guess, not pain, but I'll feel discomfort in doing certain stuff. And she'll have me do it, the stretching and whatnot, because the idea that even as I do it now, I feel a little bit pain, not noticeable pain, but something, I guess, the older, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And so I guess you work with people to work on all parts of the body.
in the falls prevention program, that's exactly what we do. We talk about act, daily, activities of daily living. So I want to reach up into the countertop and get said thing. I need to pick up my groceries. There's ways to do it and not to do it. How do we stand properly? Because for every inch that your ear is not in line with your shoulder, you've added 12 pounds to your back. We call it the 42-pound head. So we talk a lot about that. And the more your shoulder comes forward, the tighter your pectoralis muscles get, and this constricts your organs as you start to come forward. And that's what causes the dowager hump.
And you got my attention before when you were talking about the fact that uh, people, and for some reason, it seems to be a lot of guys have this where the head is, always, going forward and they walk that way. I guess part of that's personally, I'm on the computer too much, but can that be changed or you can get past that?
Yes, I talk very much about this in the program, how to align your head and the John Wayne walk and the Marilyn. The John Wayne walk, guys sidle like John Wayne. And we also how we use contralateral movement. The other thing we do is we play a game of proprioception because I know that we've all done it, we've all seen it, where you're waiting to pull out, or you're driving down and somebody pulls out right in front of you, right?
Right.
Everybody who's listening is like, yep, happened to me. It's not because they hate you. It's because they have lost the ability to either turn their head or they're perceiving you're further away than you really are. So this program works specifically on proprioception to help you know where you are in time and space.
And just saying that has my attention because I'm right now have a problem turning my head, and that's tied into this whole discussion that,
Absolutely.
you know, um, anyway, it's so ironic you're mentioning this. If people want to get more information again, I guess, first of all, about the program, if you repeat that website again.
It's AshevilleCommunityYoga.org.
Okay. And
That web,
that'll have all information about this
it
course. They
might be
look.
AshevilleCommunityYogaCenter.org, but I think it's AshevilleCommunityYoga.org. And you can go online and you go to the events page. You'll see, and actually, the picture is of one of our senior yoga classes, and they're in boat pose. And go to the events page. You'll see all the classes that we're doing. It will have the yoga for osteoporosis workshop on it. It'll have the 6 weeks falls prevention program on it. At the end of January, I am doing a workshop specifically on the lower back.
Okay. And if folks want to find out more about you or track you down, is there a way to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook. You can also look me up. The best way is via email. I'm my office is always open on email. And
Okay.
that is and the best one to get me from is Reams Creek Yoga at AOL.com.
Okay. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for being my guest this edition of Blaine's World webcast. You got me thinking, which is always a good thing. And I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And after I get off this show, I'm going to speak to my wife and see if I can get her to take this course with me. We're so good. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, it was lovely for you to have me, and I fully expect to see you in class on the 6th.
Okay. And I hope, if not then, hopefully we'll bump into each other in real time at some point in time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And also thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and we'll see you soon.